We are live. All right, welcome back to another Believe in Magic Place Q&A. We have with us as our guest the great Stuart Palm, and moderating today will be the awesome Peter the Perceptionist Turner. Thank you very much, guys, for being here.
Thank you, Alex.
There we go.
Whenever I talk, does that mean the people see me, and whenever Peter talks, they see him?
That will end up on how you guys speak and the camera controls that I have. I'll try to keep up just as much as possible. For the most part, it's going to be on you guys. I'll do what I can to follow questions and throw them in there whenever possible, but it's your y'all's show. So, Peter, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, so I'll start with a rather cliche question that I ask each guest, and then based off the answer to that question, I will deviate onto a route that's just personal to you. So how did you get involved in mystery arts, in performance?
An uncle. Although I think I was always involved in mystery arts and performance, and I don't think I had any ability to fight that direction. My whole life, if you look through my family's albums, I'm always dressed as something and presenting something and doing. It's a middle child thing. So that's what it was for me. But I had an uncle who would make things disappear, like everybody does. And I feel like every time I see one of these interviews of a magician, it's the story of the uncle who introduced it, or the kids' set you had. But of course, I had one of those. But I studied art a lot more as a child than I did magic. I got back into it because I took a job after school while I rented a studio, like an art studio in New York City, and 9/11 happened, and the other work that I had all kind of went away, and I took a job as a bartender, and then would perform at the bar because you know it's easy to do and you get better tips that way, and then people started to offer me work, so I kind of just came there that way. It was organic.
So life sort of naturally segued towards doing it for a living.
Yes.
But I know that there's other things that you do as well, which is, and I know this sounds ridiculous because for most part they want to hear about your magic, but I feel one of the biggest gifts you offer in terms of magic is your ability to draw and your ability to illustrate. Because I've seen some of your work, and you have some absolutely incredible stuff. When you started, and I want to talk about that for a little bit because I think that's what makes you unique. And hopefully there'll be aspects of that you fit into your magic performance.
Yeah.
So when you started to realize you could draw, what area? So some people might focus on graffiti, some people might focus on illustration. What area sort of grabbed you, and how did you develop that for other people that are interested in illustrating their own stuff or potentially learning to draw?
I was a classic trained artist. My mother's an artist and a printmaker. She's a painter and a printmaker. And my father does calligraphy and wood carving and art, although he's in more of a urban planning field for his work. But his father was a painter, so it was in my family, and it was ingrained in the family. And I would do it very young. And because my mother was involved in art centers and local art groups, it was very easy to develop that ability. And so I took, when I was like 12 years old, nude life drawing classes. And I learned to draw pretty traditionally. So for me, the other kids, there were a lot of kids doing comic books in terms of like when I was a kid and what I saw other people my age drawing, or cartoon type stuff. I wanted to be able to draw things like they really were. And I got into sort of it was kind of a cult of art history. I studied art history pretty deeply, and I was a big surrealist fan at a very young age, and partly due to the fact that I grew up in Florida, near the Salvador Dali Museum. There's a Salvador Dali Museum in Florida, and so I got into this whole idea of alternate realities pretty young through art, and magic is real live surrealism, and mentalism is taking it another level. So that's where it kind of all comes together with me through performance.
It's almost like essentially a pair of boots that are laced up. It's just necessarily the boots have not been pulled tight. I don't know what you call it. I don't know where you call it away from. I know right now, for the viewers that don't know, Stuart's over in Asia and it is 1:15 in the morning. So He's been kind enough to stay up. But yeah, so it's almost like tying the shoelaces and drawing it all together. You can see how it all sort of pulls together to that. And you made a really interesting comment about how most kids start by drawing cartoons and comics, and that's where I started, Captain Carrot. That's
Nice.
I remember drawing Captain Carrot as a kid, so I think it's refreshing to see somebody drawing things for what they are. I really like that, because one of the biggest rules in art is draw what you see, not what you think you see.
Right.
Well, that's what I got taught. I don't know if it necessarily, with you being as good as you are, I don't know if you necessarily live by that, but that was the way that I was taught it, is draw what you see, not what you think.
I try to keep in practice, but there actually was there was a time where I think technically I was a lot better than I am now at just drawing, because I was doing it every day. So just like any art form, you need to keep that practice up. So now I don't, I do have the ability to draw things as they are, but I don't think about that anymore. I'm more drawing things to convey some sort of symbolic message generally. There's something I'm trying to convey. I don't always know what it is when I start, but there's always something that's being communicated through it. It's more of it's kind of its own magic process, I think, to create art. Magic with a K.
There we go, magic with a K. Yeah, a lot of the time, a long time ago, real magic, and I'm using the term real magic, had the C and the K on the end, which I thought were really cool, because a lot of people don't know that. They tend to just see it as magic without the K, but initially it used to be with the K, which I think is quite an interesting concept. And one thing that I really like about you as a person is, and I know we've chatted in the past, out of all the people that I've ever chatted to, you seem to be able to evoke really interesting conversation, because you end up on a path that's so far out of the box you never expected to be there in the first place. And I think that's such a real cool thing about you and your persona. And for people that don't know you, I mean, I know that we've chatted in passing and we've Skyped a couple of times and we've talked in private message. You often tend to evoke, and I don't know if the word that the soul is the right word, but it's almost a soul, get right down to the core of somebody's soul to help them tap into who they are. Do you find that helps in your work? Because you were talking about symbolism. And what I mean by symbolism is not essentially a symbol like a drawing of an eye or whatever. I mean like symbolic style work. Do you find that a lot of your work nowadays, because you've got the crystal on, is more catered towards that?
Yes. Of course, I do corporate events mostly, so I get paid to entertain. But I want to be able to do that and at the same time, for lack of a better term, heal. I think the magical arts, the mystery arts, have the power to help people, and you don't have to be hitting them over the head with it. You can just sort of mention it, and it's what I learned to use most through studying hypnotic language and metaphors, and being able to convey a metaphor through a story, and the metaphor itself. Because you can see, when you spend as much time as we do with people, you quickly see that they're all grasping for something and they all are longing for something, and the more you practice that, the more you'll start to see, they want this. And you don't need to give them you don't need to make it obvious, but if you can give them a little hint of what it is that they're looking for, then you have magically created a transformation for them that is actually worth something more than, wow, I didn't expect that to happen for real in real life, which is nice itself. I mean, when you get somebody who's like, my mind is blown, but when you get somebody, my mind is blown, and you can see that they're touched on some other level. I don't know how to completely describe that. That's the focus. That's the goal. That's the best thing you can do.
Well, I think that's an incredible point, because you're right. You're completely right. It's touching somebody on a level that's not just a ta-da. And the question that I've got from the back of that is, because there'll be a lot of people watching this that potentially looking into doing corporate work, maybe thinking about moving into the corporate market. I found personally, I mean, obviously I don't do as much corporate work as I used to do because of the tattoos and things, but there's still a few contracts that I have that were drawn over from when I used to do the corporate work. Do you find where you are that trying to, because I find that I have to cut out a lot of the artistic integrity in my work to get almost quicker to the point.
Yeah.
Where is that? Do you find that's the same on that side of the world? I know we're on different sides of the world here, and I just wondered if it were the same over there than it is here.
Yes, it is the same over here, and sometimes even more so because I'll be with an audience that's sometimes half Chinese, half French, and I have to deal with those languages clashing. And everybody will speak English, but the culture and the use of idioms and things are all so different that you have to just go to the simplest way you can. And actually, one of the things that communicates the most universally, and I think it's the reason for the international fame that Uri Geller had, is if you do any metal bends, everyone responds. Everyone gets involved with that. And it's the only way, if you don't have any language connection, to get that sense. If you do it with the right sense of mystery. I mean, if you're making balloon animals with forks, I don't think that's going to do it. But I find that one really conveys a sense of mystery and power. In China, and it's all about the script you use, and it's all about the presentation you use. In China, there's a strong belief in energy and qi, and it really works well with my personal feelings about the world and how things work. And so people get it. They're like, oh, I know what that is. Even if they accept it as a thing that's happening, or if they think of it as an entertainment, doesn't matter. They respond to it and they get the context that we're creating. And I'm presenting it as an empowering thing for them. So that doesn't seem to fall short no matter what either. It's a go-to because I can do it quickly. I can go right into it and create an experience for people. I have a lot of stuff that I love to do when I have a group of people who all speak English and they're all from the West, and I know that, or they've been educated in the West, and I know that it'll work, that I don't get to do as often. The corporate stuff, if you're doing regular magic, it's like, you keep going back to an ambitious card. In mentalism, I keep going back to simple word reveal, but cutting out everything except for that, making that moment happen. Bending stuff is always coming back. But yeah, I find myself in corporate stuff performing a lot of things very quickly where I know it's not my normal set. It's not the set that I'm trying to do. You've frozen. Are you still there?
I think he's still there, but it seems like he's just a little bit lagged. If you can continue, we'll wait for him to pop back up.
All right, cool. While he's doing that, I remember there were some questions. I probably just jump in and
Okay.
Somebody asked, and I don't remember who, maybe you, if you're looking at the thing, somebody asked if I ever have to deal with people challenging me. Are you back, Peter? Challenging me during a show, like, oh, can you read my mind? And I think everybody at some point has that. But I don't actually get that as much as I used to, but the funny thing is that I get it more outside of when I'm performing than when I'm actually doing a show. When I'm doing a show, after the show, I've sort of set the parameters. People get who I am, and it's not a problem. But socially, sometimes people will say, oh, this is Stuart, he's a mind reader, and somebody will do that challenge line of, okay, well, what am I thinking? And I think that's a real struggle for a lot of people who do this kind of stuff. I just tell them I don't know. I say, I don't know what you're thinking. And that's not how it works. We can try to do something if you want, or you can come to my show, and that's how I would sort of deal with that situation. And actually, I steer them. I steer them more towards hypnosis. I say, well, actually, I also perform hypnosis. Do you know anything about that? And just push the question back to them, in which case, I'm now back in control in that conversation. And also, I find that if we talk hypnosis, people get really excited about it, and people that are going to be challenging people get a little too worried that you'll be able to do something to them. So they'll be like, I don't, and then you can kind of level the playing field and doesn't have to worry about somebody going, what am I thinking now, magic mind reader man? All right, you jumped out. So you jumped. I answered one of the questions from the list there.
Oh, that's cool. I'm back. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It just completely froze. But now I'm back. So, which question did you answer, if you don't mind me asking?
What do I do when people say, how do I deal with a challenge? Like, can you read my mind? Well, what am I thinking now? Or does it
Right,
happen?
okay, sorry. I just came in on the tail end of the question, so I just wanted to make sure that. So, back to what you were saying about your corporate work and how you sort of get straight to the point with it. What I really liked was your point about how you become almost a vessel for everybody else's chi, to be able to bend a spoon to really show them the power of their mind. And I think that works so well because it's a presentational angle that I've never seen. I've seen it with the invisible thread where somebody tries to move, the glasses or whatever, but I've never seen an entire group of people using chi to put it into you as a vessel and use you as a vehicle to transport that vessel into an object. I think that's a really cool premise, and it's certainly made me smile. I think it's really, really cool. Just to add to that, something that you might have a bit of fun.
Sorry, what?
Something to add to that, you might have a bit of fun doing. That's really, really cool. Is that you could wait until you have the one skeptical. You could have everybody join hands or something so that they touched you, and then take the guy who asked the question. Well, can you read my mind? The one doubter, and the spoon won't bend. Then you have him take his hand off, and then the spoon bends. I think there's this beautiful moment there where,
yeah,
because he's not.
Hey, your negative energy was holding us off.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really cool thing, and it was just piecing the two things that you put together. But it just sparked off that, and it was such a cool.
I will do something like that. Not with the silverware as much, but I'll do a thing where I light fluorescent bulbs and LEDs using energy, and I will have it sometimes with those type of people where their energy, we can't light it, but somebody else will be able to light it. So that I'm sorry, it's not going to work with you. We'll do something else, but this person, oh look, they have the, so I do. It's a bit conniving, but it actually plays pretty well.
I think stuff like that's nice because ultimately what's difficult in magic and mentalism especially, is showing a thought process for the audience. And that seems to be the problem because I think a lot of the time with mentalists, not you personally, I'm using you, the term you as a collective, you tend to think in terms of, okay, I can see this, and so I'm going to reveal it, and the reveal on the pad's going to be the moment where the audience see the mind reading. And I think little beautiful moments like that are moments where they almost show that you are trying to show what somebody's thought process is, almost using the bulb as a metaphor.
Right.
And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's certainly outside the box. And I think that the more we delve into that, it's an area of mentalism that's not, I'm not going to say not discovered because it's obviously discovered, but it's not researched in depth enough, I don't think. And I think that's what I really like about your stuff, is that you take the intricacies and the smallest things and you focus on them and you work out all the minute details in order to make the big things happen after. And that's what I really like, is that you're not just doing it for the old ta-da, but you want to really show people an experience and give people an experience. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you can do as a performer.
I agree, man.
So whilst on that note, because we have had a question.
Yeah, the idea and the concept of the group creating the energy actually stems from Wonder Words. Because I know you studied with Kenton. And what it stems from is a little wonderful part about Wonder Words where he talks about doing sponge balls with kids and saying, wow, how did you do that to the kid? Aren't you amazing? In which case the kid will go, well, you did it. And when you have the child giving you credit, it's the best way to get credit for the magic. And the same thing happens with adults with fork bending and everything. If you make it, because I have it, it's about their energy and they're touching it and it starts to bend, and then I give them all the focus, and it then turns it back on, wow, that guy, something about him, and you take that humble note, and that's one of the things I learned, actually. The first thing I really experienced of yours was your penguin lecture, and it was how you came out on stage. When you came out on stage and you said, "Hi, I'm Peter Turner, and I'm supposed to be a mind reader, or supposedly a mind reader," I was like, that's an interesting way to begin. And it was when I watched it a few times that I went, actually, that's brilliant. It's brilliant because the problem of being a mind reader is I'm a man of power. And if you're like, maybe I do this, maybe I'm supposed to do this, you humble yourself from the beginning. You're not then, you're letting them give you the credit that, and I learned a lot from watching that. Just the beginning there, even it really changed the way I approached the beginning of my show.
I was genuinely bricking myself when I come out for the Penguin lecture. I was nervous. The first bit of it's just totally rushed pace, but thank you. And just to add to that line about when they take it and give it back to you, is I always like that real humble. I like the fact that you are humble, because a lot of the people, it's look at me. And I think one counter line that's beautiful, if anybody ever, especially with the sponge balls, and this is something that I know the exact bit that you're talking about, is the empowerment of once somebody else has given you the credit for it, it genuinely must in their mind exist for them to be able to give you the credit.
Right.
And I think finishing with a little tagline, "We did it."
Yeah.
Do you know, yeah, we did it. I think that's as soon as it's like you did this, no, you did it. Okay, we did this. Yeah. I think and that's where what I get a vibe from you, and I always follow my feelings whenever I'm talking about things like this, is that you're not above your audience, you're with your audience, as opposed to it's very easy as a mentalist to be separate. I mean, and I'm not taking it away from people. If that's your performance style, that's great. You watch Darren, and he's a man with extraordinary reading abilities. You watch Bob Cassidy, and Bob Cassidy is a psychic entertainer with amazing abilities to read minds. And if that suits your persona, that's great. But my personal preference for watching is when the performer becomes one with the audience.
I agree.
I think you really do that really well. You come across as a good guy.
Becoming the shaman of the group is being a facilitator for experience, not being the most amazing person ever. But the outcome is that you are in their mind the amazing person afterwards anyway. You don't have to reach for that. In my case, I'm almost 2 meters tall, so it's hard for me not to be above the audience.
Damn.
I'm always going to be, but that's a joke. But at the same time, when you are a very large person, you have to humble yourself. Otherwise, people are going to be scared of you. They're going to be reactionary. I think we lost you again. Alex, are we? I
think we lost him again too. But
we are creating a triangle around the globe. Where are you located, Alex?
I am over in Arizona, so United States.
Yeah, so basically
California.
Basically, if you drew a latitude line around the globe from me to you, you'd create a straight line, and you could make the sort of isosceles triangle going to Peter. We are circumnavigating the globe pretty amazingly. It's kind of amazing that this happens. This is a possible thing.
Absolutely, man. I'm always I'm so overjoyed when I get to talk to you guys from across the either pond, because Peter's one way and you're the other. Just you're off one coast and Peter's off the other coast, so it's always nice being able to talk to you. I think we got Peter back again though.
I don't know what's happening, guys. I genuinely do apologize, Stuart. I'm so sorry.
That's okay, man. We've been able to jump. It's no worries. We're all good.
But I just feel bad. I don't know what it keeps doing. It's never done this before, so it must be the energy.
It's the energy.
The viewers crashing the computer.
I have a wonderful story. I was doing a show in the Philippines, in Manila, and it was a nice room. It was a mixture of some of the material I did on my TEDx talk, which is about human mind, and some more performance work that's my normal work, and we were doing psychic touches. And I've got a lady and a guy on stage, and I'm doing just the classic psychic touches. And when I go and touch the man on the shoulder, the obvious touch of the man on the shoulder, right at that moment, there's a power surge in the whole room. All the lights went out. It was the most fascinating and fantastic moment ever. The girl to my right has her eyes closed. So she doesn't know what happened, but she hears the reaction. The lights come back on, and I go, "Did you feel that?" And I'm like, I don't know what just happened. That was amazing. Did you feel that? And she goes, "Yeah." And where did you feel it? And she's like, "I think on my shoulder, but what happened?" Because she's confused, like she hears all this stuff going on, and I'm like, "Well, actually, you guys are so powerful that we just blew the whole room. I think there wasn't. I hope that, I had to apologize and make sure that the sound equipment was okay." But one of the I love these kinds of experiences, and nobody knows what happened.
Have you ever thought about trying to recreate that? Because I always find that, and just this will segue into a question as well, I think, is that often when you're performing and you perform as much as you do, you find that things that happen by accident are often better than the things that you planned. So do you often find that, do you do that? Do you then, if you realise something's worked really well by accident, do you then work it into your set or try to recreate the moment, or do you just leave it for?
If it seems natural, I do. And like that's one of the things that I learned watching very young, watching David Copperfield. So if you watch Copperfield, there's all kinds of things that seem like they only happened at this show. And then you see another show, and it happened at that one too. Just like the girl he cuts himself in half with the buzzsaw, and the guy in the back of the room yells, "Wiggle your feet," and the crowd laughs, and he wiggles his feet. I mean, it's forever immortalized in the video, but when I saw it as a kid, I remember that moment of the guy yelling and the moving the feet. Now, I'm not sure if I remember watching the special or from watching the live show, because I did watch it as a young kid. But it didn't matter. It still had this feeling of, I saw the thing that was real. And when I watch a theater show on Broadway and something goes wrong, and you can see the cast kind of giggles, the whole audience lives for that moment. They love that moment of something real happening and watching how they deal with it. So if I can, when I have those, I'm like, yay, this is exciting. And that's part of why I like mentalism, because I can do a blindfold act and have people draw pictures and tell them what they drew every single night, and it's going to be different drawings and people and things that happen, and I don't know what it's going to do. But, it makes it a different show every time. And if something happens, and I have had those moments where I'm like, that was awesome. How do I do that every time? I wish I could make the power blow on the building every time, but I don't know. I don't know how I would do it, and I have a feeling it would. I don't want to create something that then feels contrived. Like that's a big enough experience that if I did it enough, people might talk, and then people might, oh yeah, he does that all the time. That's part of his, and then that makes them go, oh well, maybe everything else is planned too. Maybe everybody up there on stage is just a cast member or something. I don't want those experiences to feel that way.
So I think that's a beautiful answer, because it also then says that the moments that you live for, you experience enough of them just to let them go. And I think as a performer, it's sometimes difficult to let the natural moments go, because it feels so right just to use them again. Yeah. I like your answer. I think your answer really sums it up, that you have enough of them happening to let it go, so that when two people talk about a similar experience, they have a different story to tell each time, and it feels unique then, as opposed to it feeling something that's set up, as you say. So off of the back of that, I'm going to ask a question that's been asked, because I don't want people thinking that we're not asking any of the questions that have been asked. There's a question by Preston. It's Preston Heller, and he basically says,
readings, right?
Pardon?
Sorry, go ahead.
It says, Stuart, can you talk about how you perceive pendulum work, and how you work in your performance?
I see pendulum work as training wheels for hypnosis. Pendulum work is my favorite muscle reading device. Essentially, it's the idiomotor response, and it's an idiomotor amplifier. That's what it does. I have my owl, my product that I sell, and I made it for myself
These are cool. These are cool.
and,
These are cool.
and I do the owl, but actually the power of the owl is in the setup. The script for the setup is an induction script. It puts people in a minor trance state. When they're in that minor trance state, and they then are using the owl, they are better automatically at doing a pendulum because they're already accepting the experience. Because sometimes if you don't have somebody who can go there, they're going to sit there and the thing's going to be dead and not moving at all, and they're going to be like, what's supposed to happen? I don't have that happen that often, but if you can get them into a state of belief, they will have an amazing experience. And I would rather do a pendulum piece that teaches them how to use one for personal, subconscious, unconscious mind connection than make a trick out of it. Anytime, because when I first put out the owl, Mao Tao knows, and that's actually Mao Tao. Mao Tao Ling is Chinese for owl, and it means cat-headed bird. I love that kind of. It's a bird with a cat head. So Mao Tao knows. A lot of people, when I first put it out, said, "Oh, what's the gimmick? What's the trick? Is it got a magnet in it? Does it have a thing? Is there some high-tech device I can have?" And I'm like, "No, it's a carved wooden thing on a string." If you think like that, you don't need it. It's not going to work for you. It doesn't do that. It creates
people. You're right. They just jump straight onto that.
Yeah. Like, what am I paying for? Like, a beautiful object. And a really nice script that I worked a long time on.
It does look beautiful. It's ultra cool, guys. And I don't know if you... I'm sure Stuart will put up a link to where he sells his stuff, and I'm telling you,
yeah,
I love it. I took one look at it last time we talked, and I was like, this is the good stuff.
Thanks, man. Yeah, actually, we're going to do some giveaways at the end of this. So I'm doing a half-priced Mao Tao nose in the giveaway. I don't know how exactly they handle how that works, but I'm going to do some of those and some Dexa cards and stuff. But to more completely answer the question, if you're going to do any mystery work that has a basis in what magicians call shut-eyes, I don't call them shut-eyes. If you're going to do any work that exists in that realm, before you learn to do tricks with it, go learn what real psychics do with it. And by real psychics, I mean people who perform solely as psychics and aren't, in their mind, doing any tricks. They are in a mode of belief. So go learn to use a pendulum for its own purpose. Go learn to get in contact with your inner subconscious and unconscious mind and make it spin left and right and front and back and in circles, and then share that. That's how I do it. I share that with people. I'll do Bill Cushman's routine with the key. I think that's great. Bill Cushman's routine is fantastic. I forget what he calls it, but and his book Tribill is great. If you want a pendulum material, go get Tribill and get his thing where it's a key bend, but you give everybody keys, or they take their keys, they put them on strings, and they swing with you. If you're being the conductor for an orchestra of pendulums, that's a great experience. People love that.
I tend to find that with the pendulum work, the reason why people struggle to get people to move the pendulums, if they are Chevreul's pendulum, the reason they struggle to move the pendulum a lot of the time is because before, like you say, before the participants even got involved, they don't have an understanding of what it is they're supposed to be doing, and not only that, they don't understand the more important thing of why they're doing what they do. And
exactly.
there were a really cool concept, and I can't remember where I saw this. This is going back 10 years, and I think it might have been at a psychic show. I'm not sure. I can't 100% guarantee. This is not written up anywhere. I've not seen it in print since. But I think that I've never seen anybody get as many people to move pendulums like this guy. And his justification was just what you'd said about how it amplifies a subconscious thought, right? So what he was saying essentially is, have you ever done that where you've walked into a room and you've put your keys down and completely forgot where you put them?
Yes.
Now, this is the thing. Your subconscious mind knows exactly where you put the keys. It's just that your conscious mind's forgotten to be able to recollect that piece of information.
Exactly.
So that's where this comes in. This amplifies subconscious thought.
I use the Find Your Keys story in my presentation. It's
I don't know where it comes from. I thought it was really cool.
But I've actually found my keys with my pendulum more than once. It does work.
Right. I thought it was a real cool concept, and then once everybody had bought into it and it had a practical purpose, they were like, "Damn, I need to try this," you know. So I think you're right. It's the why. The why.
Well, you know, and if you're dealing with somebody who's overly skeptical, and you just say to them, "Okay, look, if you've lost your keys, somehow you do know where they are because you put them there. But you don't know how to tap into that memory because it's not as important to you. And the more you try to find it, the harder it is to find. That's a state of human consciousness. But you do know, and that's what this does. Because the problem is you lose people who are overly skeptical if you say that it's moving with mystical powers and it's moving with, you know, it can tell you the future, or it'll tell you, you know, your baby's name or something. It gets you're going too far. If you keep it in the realm of what it actually is, you can add more belief to it, but keep it in the realm of its reality.
After you've created the foundation, you can give them
Exactly.
the building blocks. Beautiful. So just to quickly move on, because I've got 15 minutes left and I want to get as much of the questions in, because I really like your answers, and your answers are genuinely inspiring certain thoughts in my mind. Is Art Vanderlee's messaged in, and Art's from one.
Tell him today he's wearing pink socks.
He's a funny guy. He's from one city over to me, and yeah, he's a character. He's asking what your opinions are on pre-show work.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Nice answer. Keep it simple like that, because I'll move on to his second one.
Yeah.
Genuinely, just great. I think it's a perfect answer for that, because for those, this is one of them comments that mentalists hate, but for those who get it, good. For those who don't, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So can you discuss, and this is the second question by him, can you discuss your blindfold portraits?
Sure. Good, because this actually will answer somebody else's question that I saw on there too about how I do readings. Because the blindfold portraits is a readings product. And I say product because whenever I book events and I'm talking to a booking agent, I say, okay, I have a few different products. I have a mind reading or mentalism show. I have a hypnosis show. I have a combination show that mixes the two. And then I have intimate mentalism. And then I have a thing that I call blindfold or sightless portrait readings, in which I then guide them to the video of it. And after they watch the video of it, I go, okay, so this is what happens. Because it's hard to describe, it's hard to explain. And what happens is I am seated, and I have an easel, and behind me I have a banner, kind of like this, because I always work, generally I will work with a banner that gives a gist, sets a tone for what I'm doing. But the Sightless Portrait Reading banner has that title and then explains what's happened, because it's a close-up experience, and it happens at events where people are wandering about, and if I'm in the middle of it, I can't stop and explain, oh, well, actually there's coins and tape on my eyes, and I'm wearing this metal. I use the metal blindfold with the tape and everything. What happens is, after I have somebody blindfold me, who's trusted by the group, I sit at an easel, and people randomly join me. And then I draw their portrait, and while I draw their portrait, I give them a reading. And there's a few different readings I'll do, but normally I do the cube. And the cube is actually a psychological test that I've heard it comes from Persian culture. I'm not actually sure of the whole story, but it's very, very, very old. And I learned about it when I was maybe 10 years old, and my sister bought a book at like the, self-help psychic corner of a bookstore that explained the story of the cube. And then as kids, we would just do these things to each other, just like kids play Ouija boards and kids do light as a feather, stiff as a board, and all this kind of stuff. We also did the cube. Have you, Peter, done the cube?
Have I ever done the cube?
Yes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what it is. I don't perform it myself. Dale Hildebrandt's got a good variation of it, as is Jerome Finley.
Okay, so they both use it. But do you have one? Like if I say, have you been through the process? Has somebody done it to you?
I have been through the process, yeah, with the ladder and.
Okay.
Do you want to do one?
Well, I was going to if you hadn't done it.
No, just do it anyway, because this is the thing, right? So,
one of the interesting things that happens with the cube is that, well, we'll just do it and then I'll explain.
if you
It's
do
a
it,
visualization test, and what this does is it's for the psychic portrait readings is it fills the time while I'm drawing their portrait, and I position it so they can't see what I'm drawing, so they're set a bit back. And they're just talking to me. And I also get them to close their eyes so they can focus and visualize these things. So everything kind of helps everything else out in the experience. So the first thing is to imagine a desert. And so I want you to really make a vivid picture in your mind of a desert, and not a beach, because I know you're used to those, but a desert. Imagine a desert, and I want you to describe to me what does your desert look like.
It's a vast, open wasteland with rockery.
Rockery, so that means it's dry.
Yes, very dry.
Very, very dry and arid. Is there anything in it?
Other than rocks, no.
I'm sorry?
Other than the rockery, no.
Okay. Is it hilly or flat?
It's hilly around the edges, but flat where I am.
Okay. And I'm imagining as I'm seeing, and I don't know that I'm seeing what you're seeing, but is the ground sort of cracked?
Yes.
Hardened and cracked. Okay.
Yeah, like mosaic patterns.
As you see this way, what is the sky doing?
It's starting to get dark.
Okay. Are there clouds?
No.
No. So art's not around. In this scene, I want you to visualize a cube and make it vivid. Give it color if you need color, whatever you need to add into that space to fill the cube, and start to describe what you're seeing. What first is the material the cube is made out of?
It's like a plexiglass.
It's plexiglass. Can you see through it?
Yes, but it's tinted.
Tinted. Was it tinted a color or just a tone?
It's tinted a tone of blue.
Of blue. Nice. Is there anything inside?
There's one right in the center. There's one little cube to sit on.
So it's a very large cube. The tinted blue translucent plexiglass cube. How big is it?
I'd say it's double my size, and it's a fairly huge cube.
Yeah.
It's almost the size of a room.
I like that. So like 10 by 10 feet, possibly.
Yep, 10 by 10 is perfect.
In the space, where is it?
Right in the center of the picture I'm thinking about.
Nice. And do you see yourself inside it sitting on the smaller cube, or are you viewing the scene?
I'm inside it, sat on the cube, looking out at everything.
Got it. I also want you to add to the scene a ladder, and do the same thing. Make it vivid in your mind, and when you're ready, start to describe to us what does that ladder sound. What does it look like?
It's a wooden ladder, and it has metallic rungs, which is slightly strange. It's a very tall ladder, and it also has rubber footings.
Is it A-frame or is it one piece?
It's one piece.
One piece. And where does it go?
where I'm seeing it in the picture is inside the cube coming out, so that if I needed to get out, I could get out.
Yeah, got it. And does it keep going into the air, or does it sort of only facilitate getting out of the cube?
It keeps going up, but it offers me the path to be able to jump off should I want to.
Nice. Can you see the end of it?
No.
Good. I want you to imagine now that we add a living thing, and this will be a horse.
The horse will be. Do you want me to tell you where it is?
Yeah, whatever comes to mind.
Okay, so I'm seeing a white horse on the outside of the cube, and that's my way to get back to civilization, I suppose. It's mounted with water and supplies.
A horse is a pack horse.
That's the one.
Yeah, so it has a saddle. You could ride it.
Yeah, I could ride it.
And is it staying near the cube, or is it kind of roaming about?
It's staying near the cube.
I want you to now imagine the scene. You have the cube, you have the ladder, you have the horse, and imagine a storm comes. And tell me what happens. First, describe to me, what does the storm look like?
It's in the distance, so it's not come close yet. And it almost looks like, if I were to explain it as anything, a black hole moving closer. So it's almost an inverted tornado.
Okay. And if it was to come, what would happen to everything in the scene?
Well, for one, it'd get very wet. I think we'd probably escape the scene before it come.
Okay.
But the chances are...
So how would describe what would happen with this escape?
So I'd climb up the ladder to where I could see over the top, and then jump off the top without sounding humorous, classic cowboy style, and try to land on the back of the horse.
Nice.
And then I'd rear off and quickly go back to civilization to warn them there's a storm coming.
Nice. Now let's imagine that the storm subsides and you're back in the scene again. And in the scene there appears flowers. I want you to tell me what kind of flowers do you see and where are they?
These would be foxgloves.
I'm sorry?
Foxgloves.
Fox?
Gloves. We call them foxgloves. Yeah, they're like bluebells.
Okay, yeah.
They're like a foxglove or a bluebell.
Okay.
And they'd be growing in circular patches.
Wonderful. All over the ground.
Yeah, all over. So to fill the circumference of the cube, so probably like a 30-meter circle.
Oh, that's great. And they're blue in color.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of blue in your scene. I like the blue. I will now be looking up foxgloves later on to understand this more completely. And I like that the storm brought rain, and then the rain brought your flowers, because there wouldn't have been that dry desert, that dry cracked land would not have grown those flowers had the water not been there. So and I'll simultaneously sort of tell you what my take is and my feelings and impressions from your cube and your desert, as I will explain sort of a bit of what I will tell a person and what I will not tell a person about the cube. I used to, at the end of this, tell them specifically whatever every symbol means. I don't do that anymore. I will tell them that if they just look up the cube, if they want to learn more about it, to do that. But I find it's more interesting to just tell them what I get. And what I get from you, Peter, is that you are very much inside yourself, and you see the outside world, and it is a difficult place to exist in, but you are comfortable inside yourself, and you're very contemplative, and you are an observer. You see the world. And you've been able to get out of that box. You've been able to get out of the connections that keep you sort of in your own mind through deep and pure friendships. You have friendships that are very strong and at the same time very organic. that exist to give you stability, but you don't want to let go of the fact that they happen to you instead of you building them. They happen to you in such a sense of, well, I mean, I could easily say it. It's written on your hand. It says fate. Fate happens to you, and you let it happen. You are open to fate. And that, in essence, illustrated well by the fact that you can climb out of yourself by using a ladder. You can get out of yourself by using your friends. And here's a case in which I will point out, if you were a person coming to this and new, I will say, because the cube is you and the ladder is your friends, and this illustrates that you use your friends, not like you use them in a bad way, but that they help you get outside of yourself. What I would caution you about is that when you're looking for a mate, don't rely on your mate to give you sustenance. It is important to be able to share the ability to help each other, but if you rely too heavily on your mate to bring you food, to bring you life, to take you away, to help you out, then it becomes an imbalanced relationship, and I can see that that's a possible danger in the way that you view the world. But the beautiful thing is that you flourish after trouble, and you see trouble as something you can handle, and that you will be able to escape and come back to, and trouble in itself is obviously the storm. So if it feels right, I will go and explain all the symbolism in the cube to the person, and as I'm drawing their portrait, draw a quick portrait of them, I add in little key elements from their image, whatever is sort of very personal to them. So the cube inside the cube I would draw with the ladder coming out, which reminds me of the Pueblo Indians. Do you know about them?
No.
The Pueblo Indians, I think in Nevada, you'll look that up, they lived in cliffs. They were the cliff dwellers, and instead of building homes, they carved them out of the cliffs.
Oh, I do know, yeah, I do, yeah. Damn.
And their sort of holy places were holes. Their holy places were holes. They would build like a sweat lodge in the ground, and then they would always have a ladder peeking out of the top to be able to go in. The only way to get in and out of these sort of rooms of contemplation are the ladder on the top. And your image of your cube with the ladder coming out of the top really reminds me of that Pueblo Indian ladder coming out of the adobe hut thing. So yeah, that's the cube.
I think that answers Dan's question as well, because can you expand on reading systems and how you approach readings in general? So that sort of really encompasses your approach. It encompasses how you get in touch with somebody's feelings. It also leads to, and by the way, if you watch that, there's one thing I picked up on, is your way to empower the people to believe in themselves. I really like that, as opposed to definitively telling somebody what they should be doing in 6 months, what they should be doing in a year, and taking away someone's free will. You ultimately give them the chance to be themselves, and I think that's such a wonderful thing. At this point, I'm going to take one more question, and I'm going to have to bounce because I've got my show. And I think this. So this is Preston again, and Preston, for anybody who doesn't know, is a real cool guy. I met Preston a few weeks back on Skype, and he's got such a good soul about him. He's a real cool cat. So this is a nice question. This is just following up on the pendulum one, which I should have asked earlier, for which I do apologise. Can you just outline a short script for the finding the keys? So basically, can you sort of outline what it is?
Oh, the finding the key story. It's hardly a script. Basically, you want to. I'll tell you this way. Whenever a lot of people introduce the idea of psychic abilities, they introduce the idea by saying, have you had these experiences? These experiences such as you're thinking of a friend, your phone rings, it's that friend. That used to be a lot more poignant before cell phones and caller ID as a story. But the same thing can be told when you're talking about pendulums by saying, have you ever had the experience where you're looking for something and you know you put it down not long ago, but you can't find it? So on some level, you know where your keys are, but you can't find them no matter where you look. You can use a pendulum to do this, and all you need to do is create a binary system, a system of yes and no. And then I will go in and show exactly what that is, the yes and no. And then I will attach the experience of finding the keys to that binary system. So is it by the couch? And if I get a yes, I will look by the couch. It's very simple. You can also, like, let's say you were wandering around the city and you saw a shop you wanted to go to, but you didn't have time or you forgot to take a picture and jot it down. You can ask yourself to guide yourself to that shop, and it will work with a pendulum. So it's just creating a story of real life practical uses for a pendulum that makes it more, it creates a sound foundation that they understand now what this is and how you can then build on it for whatever it is you want to use it for.
That's the thing. I think that, like I said, the main thing is to create a logical premise. And just going back to finish off what you were saying earlier, is to create that foundation. Now, this is the thing. I think it's a really good point. Is that a lot of the time, the reason that people challenge you and say, "Well, go on then. If you're a mind reader, what am I thinking now?" is because, and this is based on the point of you saying that often performers come out claiming too much to start with, instead of easing it in. And I think this analogy with the pendulum's great, because what it does is it offers a logical context that's practical, that they understand, to show them the use of the pendulum. And once they've got used to the idea of it, you're saying, here's a couple of other applications. And then by introducing the other applications, even if they're slightly more outlandish after, the idea is that because of the fact that they're already accustomed with what a pendulum is and what a pendulum does now and why it's there, there isn't as much of a resistance to attempting something that they're considered ridiculous in the first place. And that's the same for a lot of performance. Like, if you go out and instantly claim to be something, the people who don't believe are the first people to kick back. And what you do is you divide your room into two parts. You divide your audience into two groups.
Right.
Whereas
and
if you
those
subtly
people then they're not watching you, they're watching the other people they're watching you and the other people instead of being a part of it. You don't want to disassociate them. You want them to be able to let them be part of the group as well. Sorry, I cut you off there a second.
No, it's cool. Like I say, you're right. They become part of the experience, but at the same time, what you do is you find that common ground that everybody understands from their own life, and then via finding that common ground that exists between all of them, you then bring them together, and you say, and now without pointing anybody out, and you say, for the people that didn't believe this was possible, you could certainly see how this is possible, and for the people that did believe, hopefully it's give your mind a few more ideas to sort of, to go around and play with in your own head, your own imagination, whatever. I like that idea of it subtly bringing somebody in instead of just throwing them in at the deep end and expecting them to believe everything that you say you are, because as people, we're naturally resilient to believing what we're told, especially if it goes against our own inhibitions and beliefs. So I think the moral or the metaphor there, which is the most beautiful bit, is the slowly getting people to dip the toe into the water to see it's not going to burn them, and then they get in. And then you say, well, now we're in here, it's starting to get a little bit cold, let's turn the water up a bit, and if at any point it gets too warm, please let us know. You're being the good host. I really love that. So
you're making sure that everyone's with you at all moments.
And that's it. And with that, Stuart, for everybody in the Believe in Magic place, don't think me rude for bouncing and getting out. I've genuinely got to go. I feel really bad for
you. I'm very happy you were able to jump in and take over for Morgan. Man, it's been a lovely chat, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for being interviewed. And I hope I haven't sort of pried into anything that you didn't want me to pry into. Hopefully, the viewers
that was perfect.
An interesting experience. So, guys, take care, and we'll catch up later, Stuart.
Before you bounce, I just so that everybody doesn't log off, we are going to stay on here for a bit. I'm going to chat with Alex for a bit because I'm going to do some giveaways, and I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, but we'll talk about how that works. So that's thanks.
They'll sort that. So, guys, peace out, and I'll catch you later.
Thank you very much, Peter. See you later. All right, so he's out, and it is now you and me.
Cool. Is anybody watching?
Yeah, no, we still got viewers. Actually, nobody dropped out. I'm watching the viewer count here, so good disclaimer.
I was worried. I was worried while I was doing the cube that it would be like, oh my god, because that's normally one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually just am looking on my phone here to see if I can look at if people have comments. So I'll just let you. I'll let you if there are more questions or things that have come in.
Well, do you want to go through and do the contests real quick, and then we can go back and maybe finish off with maybe a question or two?
Sure. How do we do the contest?
Well, the contests, right now we have to do it a little bit weird because the site's having issues. We're switching hosting. So normally you would send an email to my Believe in Magic Place email. I'm going to post my personal email address in the inbox below, and you guys are going to send me a message specifically since we have a large giveaway. We have 3 Gnostic decks, 1 Kodama pad, Icon, and you were saying Mount Knows, you were doing a deal on that one, right?
Half price, yeah.
All right.
Mount Knows. One will be the 3 decks. I can actually hold that up. The blue color, the red color, which actually only Conjuring Art sells. I don't even sell them myself, but I have some of my own. And the black ones, which is that. So it'll be a set of all 3. And then Icon is a thing I use all the time, and it's a utility device, but it's just to show people. It's a card effect that's not a card effect, and it's logo cards, and I have a bunch of stuff that I do with them, and it's a PDF, and then the ability to download all the files to make them, and these are just paper laminated that I use. I will eventually be I'm looking for a place that'll make simple cards printed for this to sell them, but I haven't done that yet because it's another project altogether. But I'm giving away one of those books. And then, what else? A Kodama, which is the impression or imp pad. Is this thing, I actually don't know if Believe in Magic Place is open forum or is it a closed forum?
It is closed. We vet all members individually as they come in. So we make sure that everybody is of the respectful mind of magic. Very
you can say impression pad.
Yes. This is in full circle. That's right. You can say impression pad. You can say we don't chastise the idea of saying thumb tip.
Right.
Things like that. So no, yeah, you should be for the most part speaking to all magicians. And then you explained Mount Knows earlier. Did you have one that you wanted to show?
Usually.
Things have gotten real when you bring out the suitcase that's been handcuffed to you the entire time.
Exactly. Yeah, there's always one. There's always one in here. So this is it. And he's about 3 years old. This one. I just had a new batch made. So it comes in a silk bag. And it is a wood-carved owl, and there are lots of different things built into the carving on the owl. It's a knotted string on it, and it has jade beads and a Chinese coin on the top. So you hold it that way and do your thing. Get it in camera there. So if I'm thinking very positive thoughts, you will start to give me a yes response. So there it is. That's my yes. And you can start by training yourself with the pendulum. I'll do this really quick for people who've never done a pendulum. Just take a string and tie a ring to it, or a key, or any weight, and you want to find out what's yes and no for you. So this is now swinging forward and backwards on me, and normally what I tell people to do is ask it an obvious yes question, like, am I human? And let it give you the yes response. And then ask it an obvious no question, such as, I don't know, am I in a car right now? And what will happen is it will change. And normally for me, the no response is that, left and right, back and forth. That's my no response. I apparently think I'm slightly in a car. It's not very strong right now, but the more you do it, the stronger the reactions will get. And if you give it an I don't know or something where you're not sure the answer, will go in a circle. And that's the pendulum part. Maotao has a whole script of other stuff you do with it. It's basically reverse psychometry. So I get the people that I'm doing it with to visualize the symbols and things on the owl before they take it out of the bag. And that's kind of the trick. That's kind of the display. But, yeah, that's all I want to say about that.
All right, actually, Preston Heller just says, thank you, Stuart, Peter, and Alex. I just found my keys.
You're welcome. Good.
See, it's already coming to good use. Now, actually, I had a question because my mother came to me yesterday, and she pulled out a pendulum. And
Nice.
she started telling me about yeses and nos. And I've been worried about how I treat that because my mother, I wouldn't say, I don't like necessarily using the word shut eye either because she's not nearly as bad as she had been at one point. But, like, how would I go to approach that on a personal standpoint? Because I know about the ideomotor effect and, you know, what that causes and why it works. But it's not exactly what she's being taught.
Yeah, they do go beyond that normally. What does she want to do with it?
That's a darn good question. I'm really not sure. She just she's been into yoga and all sorts of stuff, and it just was kind of. I was kind of really hoping to hear you talk about pendulum work and whatnot.
Right.
It's not something that
Yoga's great. I mean, pendulum work is great, and you can attach whatever you want. But if you want a personal self-discovery device, it's the best starter device for personal self-discovery. You can trance out on it. You can do a lot of things. You can do a lot of things that. Sorry, my computer was just doing something weird. I don't think. I think that no matter what you say, that just being interested in her experience is probably the best thing you can do.
right.
And for your own knowledge, learn what she's doing, because it's good to know what people use it for outside of the entertainment community that has a very specific and often narrower view of what it's possible to do. And just like, okay, so I perform a lot of hypnosis, and there's varying levels of belief in hypnosis. There is clinical hypnosis, which is scientifically proven and can help people reduce pain and anxiety and stress and quit habits and do all kinds of stuff, and that's great. There's stage hypnosis, where you can, through suggestion, get people to do things on stage, and those are all things that we know are real, and we know you can back up and say, yes, this is real. There are other people who take it a step further and start to do past life, and I've never done that, so I don't really know. But I have to, or that will tell you that you could change the size of certain body parts through hypnosis. I'm a little skeptical about the possibility of doing that, but I'm open to it. So I have to keep my response. I would love to see that. That sounds amazing. I would never advise someone or tell them that I could help them do that through hypnosis. I could only say, well, I've heard that that is something people do. It's not something that I've experienced. And so that in essence, just be honest. My best advice is to be honest and say, well, if you don't have to say, oh, I don't believe in that, and I don't think it's a good idea to try to change somebody's beliefs. You just have to kind of be open, up to the point that they're doing something that hurts them. If your mother was trying to cure cancer with a pendulum, I don't know. That's going a little bit over the line, maybe. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. Well, and my mother gets kind of weird about things. She gets really believey and then not believey so much. So she's just kind of a roller coaster there of all
Right.
that. I just kind of was very gentle with her about, like, hey, by the way, try this and try that and see how that works.
Mhm.
And I got her to do a few things that I don't do very much pendulum work at all. I just know of some things, so I tried them out, and they worked. And she was kind of puzzled by what was going on. I was like, well, I'm not saying that necessarily you're wrong. Just like understand that sometimes things aren't always exactly as they appear. Which
Well,
can,
if you present it and talk about it as a way to connect with your unconscious mind,
hmm,
which is the introduction into hypnosis and trance states, that should be in line with meditation and yoga, and that should be in line with self-healing, and I don't think you'll have any problems. I wouldn't go into talking about the ideomotor response. Um, there's no reason to. It's not necessary to talk about a scientific name apply, if that makes sense.
right. Well, my mother's a great woman, but she wouldn't understand it anyway. So, there's a bit of that. Let's see. I'm having issues pulling up the rest of the questions because I'm trying to run multiple screens right now. How about? Yeah, I can't find. My screen's not loading any more questions. Let's just finish off with the contests. How do you want to run those? Do you want people to find something on your website maybe and send that object off? Do you want them to just send out a word and then everybody who sends in a specific word over the next week gets entered and we'll just do a raffle?
Well, since we have so many different things, we could do a couple of different things because we'll have a couple of different winners. So for the raffle, let's raffle the cards.
Okay.
So how does that work? They have to message you or something?
You're going to message, and I'm going to leave my email address in the description below, but it's ARBORTON. It's arborton@gmail.com. That's my personal email. So first initial, middle initial, last name. And you're going to be messaging me the word Gnostic for the raffle.
And you have to spell it correctly.
Yes, spelling counts. So we still have Kodama, Icon, and Moutonos.
Yeah. All right. So what were you saying about a word?
Would you like them to find something on your website for any of these? We've done that in the past. We do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something good for my website. I wish I had planned this beforehand. Let's see, something good. We could do one where they could put where was I born? It's on the website somewhere.
All right, and we want to do that for.
Oh, I know. I got one.
Okay.
What Japanese animated show was I involved with, and what was the sport involved?
You were involved in an anime?
Yeah, yeah. One of my side jobs is I do voice dub acting. So I'm actually involved in a lot of animation stuff. But
Okay, that's something we'll have to talk about later because you're
all right,
talking to Otaku right now. And who wins? What do we want to do? The Kodama for that or Icon?
let's do Icon for that.
Okay, so to get Icon, message my email address with what Japanese animated show that you did voices on, or you were just associated with.
I did voices on it.
Did voices on.
But more specifically, the name of the show and the sport involved.
Name of the show, sport involved.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll do the third person who's right.
Okay.
It should be pretty easy to find, actually. On my website, it's on there somewhere.
All right. So that leaves us with Kodama and Maotao Nose.
Yeah.
How do you want those?
Okay, for Kodama, we'll stay in the vein of Japanese animation, and the question is, what animated feature film is the most common representation of a Kodama in it? It's a film that has illustrates Kodama. Kodama's a thing. It's a Japanese thing.
Yes, it is. Representation.
Yeah.
All right. So, and that's to get the Kodama pad. Yeah. And that leaves us with Maotao Nose. How do you get the owl?
It's a good question. That's got to be a good one. So we should make it about chance and fate. Somebody needs to be fated to it. So probably aren't enough. Have them each. Okay, I got it. They have to know the correct astrological symbol that's associated with Maotao.
All right. We'll have to go and discuss this afterwards.
Yeah, I'll give you
the answers from you and whatnot. But all right, so that is just as a quick review. Just send Gnostic to the email, and you entered in for the raffle for the cards. What Japanese show is Stuart associated with? We need the name and the sport involved. That's for Icon. Kodama. What animated Japanese animated film has the largest representation of Kodama in it, and it should be pretty darn noticeable, I would have to say.
Yeah,
that one should be pretty easy, actually. And then for the owl, for Maotao Nose, you need to know the astrological symbol that is involved with the pendulum. So send those answers to me. Again, that's ARBORTON @gmail.com, and I'll again put that in the question and answers. Besides that, it was great listening to you and Peter go at it. There's a few times I wanted to step in, but it's just like I'm sitting here with you on the right and him on the left, and I'm kind of like I just want to listen.
Thanks, man. I thought that went really well. I really enjoyed it. I could have kept going. It's actually probably a good thing that he had to be somewhere, so we weren't here forever.
Right. But at any rate, I think this is a pretty good place to cut it off.
Yep.
We have done a great question and answer realm. You've done an awesome performance, and we've given away, or at least offered, some really neat stuff. So,
if there's anything else people have questions on in the thread, if you just, I don't know where that is exactly. If you just send me the link to the actual space that people are having questions, I might address some if there are other ones I haven't been able to get to.
There's
Thank
been a
you
few
all for watching.
places. Absolutely. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I'll have to thank Pete again once more when I see him later. I want to thank Laura Isley for setting all this up and making all this a thing that we can do on such an often basis. So thank you, Laura. Besides that, that's the end of our broadcast. So we should have Peter Turner as our next interview, and that will be on Monday at 9 a.m. my time, which should be noon Eastern, or was that 4 Greenwich Mean Time. So that's going to be a good one. We'll see Pete again. Thank you again, Stuart, and we'll call it a night.
Thank you, Alex. Have a great whatever time it is, whatever day it is. Enjoy it.
Afternoon. Thank you.